Now this video is going to be a tour of my train room, the attic of my house, which is the 4th floor of a very old 110-year-old house, and some of the memorabilia I have, including, of course, this is my prize. This was painted by the late George Venturini. That's me in the picture right there. That's the 614, and when it went through from Hoboken to Port Jervis, I went on the ride. And as you go up into the train room, there's a lot of little pictures and memorabilia along the way. Another beautiful picture that George painted, and I treasure these because George, when he did these, he put his heart and soul into every one of these paintings. He had sold many paintings at train shows and various other things, but those were two he made specifically for me. Now, as you walk into the train room, you notice a couple of things right off the bat. And I normally don't show this on the videos. The control panel is all recessed, and there's a door. The door goes underneath the train layout where we store a lot of things. Total storage. There's a brass rail, polished brass, along the whole edge so that viewers can lean on the brass rail. So we have a lot of children coming to the layout. I have some chairs for them to sit on. They usually like to work the controls. Roger Karp, of course, featured our layout in a classic toy train. I have that just to remind me what a great day that was. Some of my extra trains that are not actually on the layout now, the shelving and the boxes and the extra trains usually wind up under the train table. Now the layout itself is T-shaped, roughly 18 by 18, and it has a lake that removes in the back so I can access and shoot video from the back. In the front, I have the brass rail and some chairs and a place for, well, the most important thing on train night is a pizza pie, especially when we have guests. And a lot of the little details on the layout. This is a very small muddy lake that I worked on. You can see one of the figures has a fishing pole, and of course I couldn't make it full size, but having a boat in there, that was one of the boats I molded. There's about 24 boats on the layout. All the little details I detailed out, put a little airbrushing on the trucks, make them look a little weathered on some of them. Some of them have various little details. There's people inside of the cars. The convertibles usually have multiple people. The guy's selling ice cream. But the biggest thing when you walk into the train room and you see it in real life for the first time, the chimney is the problem. Now, when I designed the layout, I had various ideas of what I was going to do with that chimney. And actually, when Mike Kajeski and I were building the table, he was laying it out, and he was constantly telling me, this is not a great idea, that chimney, you're never going to make it disappear. You're going to have a train layout with a chimney going right through the middle of it. Well, that's made out of all the sheeting and little strips of balsa wood, the little platform, the people. I molded the windows. The overhang is sandpaper. There's just, that was one of the things I was so proud of when I got rid of the look of the chimney and the little tower on top with the little guy servicing it. Now, that's what the first thing that catches your eye when you walk into the train room. And it's very, a lot of people have been at the layout watching trains run for hours, and all of a sudden said, hey, that's the chimney. Well, and I've detailed out every little part that I could, and the windows, I molded all of the windows. A lot of the things that I molded on this layout, like the tunnel portals, I take a lot of pride in all of the molding that I did. There's 4 separate videos on how I built the layout out on our channel. You can search the channel, and very easy to find. You can use the playlist feature to segregate out all of the O-scale and O-gauge videos. Now, the coal loader was donated to me by a friend, and actually, this is a true story. We've gone back and forth many times trading things and giving things away, and well, it's not just personal stuff. All of the little people on the layout. Now, Karen always criticizes me. She says, how many people do you have on the layout? Why don't you count them? Well, I used to buy these stacks of 100, and you had to paint them. And there are no two the same. I've put a lot of time. The convertibles have multiple people, and I love the bird on top of the telephone pole, just for one thing. All of the little model planes, the little crossbucks. There's just a lot. See, this is the thing I like, is when you come up here, you don't think it's going to be this detailed until you look at it really close. You have to see it close. Even in the videos that I shoot, and most of them are in high def, you just don't see it. It doesn't give you the impact that it should. The fly-in field that Carlos Serra made, the little motor from a VCR motor, and we wanted that to rotate at 6-second laps, just like a model plane would. The plaster walls. Now, I made the plaster mountains. They're right on the wall themselves. And I can remember a time when I was making plaster molds for these rocks and making tunnel portals and molding boats, and it really got out of hand at one point in time. But many of my friends have made the little balsa wood model planes that are on the layout. That model that you see is a B-25. I have the real model plane that I flew in the national championships in the room next door. I'm going to show that in a minute for people that have never been to the layout on an open house day. And it's details within details within details. And as I said, I try to make this, even the backdrops, I try to make them as realistic and just like it would be, as not like a toy train layout, like a more scale layout. So I always think my layout is somewhere between a real scale layout and what we consider a toy train layout or a high rail layout. And disguising the track was a major job. I did not want to see big shiny tracks that were twice the size they should be. And I made the roads rise up. The roads are not on the table. They're up the same amount that the tracks are off the table. It's three-dimensional. Where the coal yard is, there's 2 or 3 little buildings. There's a Joe K machine shop. That coal loader I made from balsa wood. There's people just literally everywhere. And there's a little building that I haven't really decided what I'm going to do in the future. I want to put a lot more detail on that. I want to put a bird on the roof, and I enjoy the detailing. I know some of my friends don't really enjoy the detailing as much as I do. In fact, some of them have a layout that's basically plywood. And there's nothing wrong with that in my eyes. I just enjoy the detailing. Now, the boats, that lake that reflects the trains, actually there's a lake right behind it on the other side of the tracks. There's 3 lakes on the layout, and it's very nice at night. We are going to show some running of the trains at night. We can see the trains reflecting in that. It's really poured epoxy. Now, one of the things I did, there's a lot of airbrushing on this layout, not, of course, starting with the tracks, with the K&W Industries big giant building. A lot of the rocks faces are airbrushed. A lot of the vehicles, I tried to keep some of them new, as it would be in reality, some brand new, like the Volkswagen buses, a nice brand new one. Karen's favorite car, the Volkswagen bus. And some of the coal trucks that are pretty well weathered and aged, looking like they would be more prototypical. The little piles of lumber, I made them all from balsa wood. There's people everywhere on the unloader. I named that after Mike Kajeski, who helped me build the table. And this was really, building this table, absolutely a labor of love. And I needed to have that coal yard to just as a little payback for it. Really, he put his heart and soul into making this table. And the loads of coal, and if you go to a real coal yard, there's different grades of coal. And I made a little area where they separate the coal. And the tunnel portals, they have weeds growing on them, and they're a lot of airbrushing. But the whole layout, the whole objective of the layout in one sentence was, I wanted it to be that I do enjoy photography, and of course I enjoy video, but I wanted to be able to use the layout as a base for my channel of shooting video and sharing photographs and sharing pictures and sharing ideas. Now, I've worked on a lot of other people's layouts, and a lot of people have come over and given me advice and help. Arnie Haber, for one, and Arnie had an enormous layout on a separate wing of his house. At a seating area around the flying field has over 100 hand-painted people, as all around, everywhere on this layout that I possibly could. I wanted to put people in various poses. Each person here has their own toolbox. And if you look real close, some of these are actually dedicated models of people that I know who owns the real model. And we made a good copy. That's George Aldrich's blue #2. And my air coupe, that's a little tribute to, I owned a real full-size air coupe for many years. There's a little speed model there for my friend Dub Jet. A little scoreboard. That's kind of like a little tribute area to GB. And with the people watching, a little orange cone. There's that silver Spitfire. We're going to go in the room next door and see that silver Spitfire in real life. And it is modeled after a real Squadron 41 silver Spitfire. So every part of this, it gets involved, and the more involved it gets, making the little switch panel, I made it from carbon fiber just because I was using carbon fiber in my business. And all of the controls are in there. They're very easy to access from the back. Karen insisted on the brass rail. I saw a friend of mine has a brass rail around the layout because the kids are always leaning into the layout. And I went to extreme effort to make it as childproof as possible. And then when my grandson was growing up, that rail got used. He was sitting on it, hanging on it, and everything. Now this is my model airplane museum that's in the room next to the train room. It's the other, basically the same size. My wife's doll that she got made in India. And this is the real Spitfire model. And it's based on a real full-size Spitfire, Tiger Cat. Here's the picture of me at the national championships, of course. This is not a model airplane video, but I wanted to show this. When I'm working on a layout, I have a radio, of course. There's my little tools, all the little things I need to tune up the trains and do the maintenance. Another picture that the late George Venturini made me of the model. And just memorabilia within memorabilia within memorabilia. Things that are priceless to me. The original Mike's Train House, I try to keep that as nice. It's just a collector item for me. And if you look around the room, there's just some things here that if there's a radio, and the radio plays World War II, Battle of Britain, like a telecast. A little train that was given to me, and it's something I treasure. There's some extra copies of the magazine that Roger Karp sent me when he did that. John Cafaro donated 2 of these Ferrari models. They are absolutely priceless to me. And Karen was collecting dolls. She still does. She's got over 200 dolls in the house, and that's the pride of the collection. My Concourse Awards from modeling days. That's a separate room. Now, at one time, just to be honest, I was going to tear out that middle wall and make the layout twice as big. I am glad I did not do it, because this layout has been more than enough to keep me busy and keep my friends busy when my friends are here. And Mike Costello used to bring his trains over all the time, and we'd run trains on a layout. Arnie Haber would bring over 2 suitcases of trains. And when we got done at the end of the night, there was pizza pie scraps everywhere, empty soda bottles. Kind of like that's the best part of model railroading. Anyway, I wanted to just show an overview. Now, if you see how big the layout is and picture it double, well, that would have been a possibility. And while I had the attic empty, it used to be, my son, of course, grew up, went to college, grew up, and moved to Colorado. And this whole area of the house became available. And this layout could have been 36 feet by 18. And I just thought, you know, I'm never going to finish it. I'm 80 years old, and now I realize what I'd have is a layout that was half done. But instead, I have a layout that I can just detail out to my heart's content, and it never looks unfinished. Whenever we run trains on it, whenever we do anything on it, I never get the feeling like, oh man, I wish I would have made the layout twice the size. And the way it worked out, it suited my needs at the time, and I had no idea how it was going to play out in the end. And as I got older and older, I was glad I didn't have some enormous construction project underway that in my lifetime I could never finish. Now, the one leg of the layout that goes off into a dormer, and it's a significant part of the layout, When I originally designed it, I didn't know what I was going to do with that dormer. And as it turns out, and if you ever get to see a copy of the classic toy trains, it shows the old way the layout was laid out. And as time went on, I didn't like it at all. I ripped it all out, redid the whole thing, put in what amounts to be a passenger station. I can keep one train in storage and one running, and then switched them. And I did this little freight station with scrap of balsa wood that I had and little things that I had left over from kit bashing. And little by little by little, that back part of the layout now has a lake that drops out. So you can go back there and photograph or actually run the trains from back there. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was going to be one of the best decisions that I made in the whole building and designing of the layout. Now, Rich Walbridge gave me this building, and he donated it to the cause, and as many other people have. But many of my friends were very generous with things, and I've given to a friend of John Cafaro's many of my old trains because I just didn't have room on the shelves for them, and I knew I wanted to get more modern trains, more Mike's Train House trains, more Lionel stuff. And what happened is, as I got more and more of the new stuff on, I wanted to make sure I could always run the old trains and the new trains on the same layout at the same time. And I didn't want to have a train with all nostalgic trains, and I didn't want to have a layout or trains that were all modern. I wanted to have an eclectic mix, and it wound up great. Now, this is the backside of the Carabello Boat Works. You can see how many boats there are. Over the years, I've had to replace that epoxy. The epoxy, this layout is now 27 years old. But each time I did it, I made it more detailed than the time before. I tried to make little sandy beaches where you could pull a boat up onto a sandy beach, not make it look like a piece of glass, so that what would happen is it would look fake. There's always little ripples in the water, and some of the boats are sailboats. Some of the boats, there's even a car with a boat on the roof of the car. And once I started molding those boats, I was giving them away to all my, it's a funny thing, all my friends that have model train layouts have some of those boats on their layout. The Joe K Machine Shop was a tribute to my late partner, Joe Cassie, who I was partners with in a machine shop for 11 years. And that's a tribute to him. And you see the car with the hood open? That's a tribute to his car, because he used to have a lot of old cars. Now, I had built many, many layouts in my lifetime, usually in the cellar of houses that I lived in, that lasted a year or two, and then the tracks would start to get rusty, and there were moisture problems, and they didn't have heat or air conditioning. And so when I decided to build this layout, I really didn't skimp on the wood. Mike used top quality wood, and boy, has it paid. Over 27 years. There's not a ripple anywhere. And I feel so sorry for some people that have skimped on the quality of wood, and especially if you're in a moist area, basement. Oh my God, and to see how they deteriorate so quickly. Now this one, luckily for me, has really stood the test of time. And I have made it that for me, it suited my needs. I wanted it to be a certain size, and I knew I have friends that have built giant layouts that they never got finished. They just get overwhelmed, and I did not want that to happen, because the part of it that I enjoyed was running the trains and detailing. Basically those two things, just running the trains and running it. When my grandson was growing up, he's 14 years old now and a basketball player, but he grew up with trains. He grew up on my shoulder watching trains go around, and we had layouts on the floor, layouts in his bedroom, layouts under the Christmas tree. And one thing the layout worked out to be better than I ever thought it would is when I have people over. Now, if you're just running trains by yourself in a basement of a house, yeah, you don't need to consider that. But I wanted to have it that it was comfortable to hang out and watch the trains. We do have, like I said, a pizza table. I've got my little work area and a little workbench not far away, so if something needs to be adjusted or oiled or tuned up or whatever. And every step of that worked out perfectly. And when we can just sit back like this and relax and run the trains, or sometimes we have young kids, and I've had young kids that are mesmerized, that in this day and age, there's some young kids, 7, 8 years old, that have never seen a real train layout. So this really makes it possible for them to, well, just pick up the controller and see how exciting a model railroad can be, how much fun it can be. And so for the rest of this video, I'm going to just dedicate it to just running some trains. try to thank the people that made this layout possible. The biggest one is my wife, Karen, that has always supported the things I'm passionate about, including this model railroad. And of course, Mike Kajeski. Mike, the table has 27 years. It's absolutely perfect. I can't say enough about it. Carlos Serra, when he came up with this mechanism, it made one of the real things that I really couldn't figure out myself possible. And Sergio Zegras, this was in a time before infrared was really possible. He helped me with all the signaling systems. And to my late friend George Venturini, that provided some super nice artwork for my train room. And George, every one of these pictures that I have here, I treasure. And if you have some trains that need upgrading or repairing, there's only one place to go, the Train Doctor. They buy, sell, and repair trains, and they're great to do business with. I've done business with them many years. And thank you so much to Roger Karp and the crew at Classic Toy Trains for featuring our layout in the magazine when it was relatively new. We've changed it a bit since then. Now, if you're new to our channel, we have over 3,000 videos. You can sort out all of the O-gauge ones very conveniently by using the playlist feature on the main YouTube screen. That will allow you to get to all of the O-gauge videos very, very conveniently. And there are many of them, including building the layout, showing how we do some of our videography. I've done videoing since 1987, and maybe some tips on building a layout that you can use. So I hope you did enjoy the video, and if you did, please take a second or two and hit the like button. And one and all, thank you so much for supporting the channel. We appreciate your support, and one and all, thank you so much for watching.